Level 1. Friendly fire. Liverpool versus Everton. The Merseyside derby. When your biggest enemy lives next door, sits at your dinner table, and bleeds a different colour. Liverpool and Everton share more than a city. They share bloodlines. Fathers against sons. Brothers refusing to speak on Derby Day. Marriages tested twice a season. The rivalry was born from spite. In 1892, Everton's board argued over rent at Anfield. A faction stormed out and created Liverpool Football Club just to prove a point. Imagine being so petty you birth one of the world's biggest clubs out of a landlord dispute. Their stadiums sat 900 metres apart up until 2025, when Everton moved to a new venue. You can see Goodison Park from Anfield stands. On match days, fans wearing opposite colours ride the same buses in tense silence. The proximity breeds intensity, yet this derby holds a strange honour. It's respectful. More red cards than any other Premier League fixture, yes, but significantly less violence than other local rivalries. No segregated neighbourhoods, no police escorts through hostile territory. Then came April 15th, 1989. Hillsborough. 97 Liverpool supporters crushed to death at an FA Cup semi-final. Everton fans didn't celebrate a weakened rival. They mourned alongside them. Goodison Park became a shrine. Banners reading "Merseyside United" appeared across the blue half of the city. That moment defined this rivalry's soul. Steven Gerrard's late winners and Divock Origi's 96th-minute strikes provide the passion. Physical midfield battles remind everyone what local pride demands. But when tragedy strikes, the city remembers its family first. This is rivalry at its purest. No politics, no religion. Just two sets of fans who'll argue in the pub Saturday night and stand together when it matters. Level 2. Supremacy Wars. Arsenal versus Manchester United. When two managers refuse to share English football's throne, every match becomes a psychological knife fight. This wasn't about geography, this was about power. Between 1996 and 2005, Arsenal and Manchester United didn't just compete, they rewrote what rivalry meant in the Premier League era. Arsène Wenger arrived in 1996, bringing continental sophistication and free-flowing football. Across the M1, Sir Alex Ferguson had built an empire on mental warfare and refusal to accept second place. The managers engaged in press conference mind games, Ferguson's provocations, Wenger's dismissive "I did not see it" responses. Two brilliant tacticians who couldn't stand sharing the spotlight. September 2003, Old Trafford, 0-0. Ruud van Nistelrooy steps up for a last-minute penalty. He misses. Arsenal players swarm him, taunting, screaming. Martin Keown jumping at his back. The image goes global. Fines follow. The message is clear. No mercy. Then October 2004. Arsenal's 49-game unbeaten run ends 2-0 at Old Trafford. In the tunnel afterwards, pizza flies at Ferguson. Pizzagate becomes football folklore. Same season, February 2005, Highbury Tunnel. Patrick Vieira confronts Gary Neville about a tackle on Jose Antonio Reyes in the Old Trafford meeting, threatening with payback. Roy Keane steps between them. The two captains go face-to-face, screaming before kickoff. Pure alpha male confrontation captured on live television. Between 1996 and 2004, one of these clubs finished first or second for 8 consecutive seasons. Every match felt like a title decider, because it usually was. The contrast defined it. Arsenal's elegance versus United's industrial fury. Thierry Henry's artistry against Roy Keane's rage. The intellectual Frenchman versus the working-class Scot. Both clubs have fallen from those heights, but those who watched know. This was warfare in football boots. Level 3. Roma versus Lazio. Derby della Capitale. When the stadium becomes a battlefield for fascism versus communism, football is just the excuse for war. Rome houses two clubs that despise each other with the intensity of a civil war that never ended. This isn't about local bragging rights. This is about identity, class, and political ideology so extreme it regularly turns deadly. Lazio formed in 1900, attracting Rome's upper-class and military families, eventually becoming associated with far-right politics. Roma was established in 1927 to represent working-class neighborhoods. The divide hardened into opposing political movements, fascism versus anti-fascism. They share the Stadio Olimpico. No club owns it. No home advantage beyond who brought more rage. The Curva Nord and Curva Sud transform into political rallies with flares, massive choreographed banners, and chants referencing Mussolini and historical battles. Lazio's ultras, the irreducibili, display fascist imagery so blatantly, UEFA hands out stadium bans. In 2005, Lazio player Paolo Di Canio gave a straight-armed fascist salute to fans after scoring. International condemnation followed. Within Lazio's hardcore support, he was celebrated. Roma's ultras respond with communist flags, Che Guevara imagery, and anti-fascist slogans. Matches become referendums on Italian society itself. The violence isn't symbolic. In 2004, a derby was abandoned at half-time when false rumors spread that police had killed a child outside the stadium. Riots erupted immediately. Fans fought running battles with riot police. The match resumed only after confirmation the child was unharmed. In 1979, a Lazio supporter was killed when a flare struck him during the derby. In 2007, a Roma fan was shot dead by police, triggering riots across Italy. Stabbings before matches, ambushes on fan buses. The list is grim. Yet beneath the hatred, the football can be spectacular. Francesco Totti's derby goals over 25 years became some of Calcio's most emotional moments. When football becomes the language for societal rage, the beautiful game turns ugly pretty fast. Level 4. Nationalist Nightmare. Red Star Belgrade versus Partizan Belgrade. When rival army factions create football clubs, you're not building teams, you're organizing militias. Belgrade's eternal derby isn't watched, it's survived. Every match carries the threat of riots, pitch invasions, and violence that makes international headlines for the wrong reasons. This rivalry was militarized from birth. Post-World War II Yugoslavia needed reconstruction. Instead of unity, rival military factions competed for power. The Yugoslav People's Army created Red Star Belgrade in 1945. 7 months later, the military establishment formed Partizan Belgrade as a counter. These weren't sports clubs. They were institutional extensions of power struggles at the highest levels. The fans inherited that militant structure. Red Star's Delige and Partizan's Grabari are among Europe's most organized, most dangerous ultra groups. Their hierarchies with leadership, funding, and direct connections to organized crime and nationalist politics. Match days in Belgrade resemble military deployments. Thousands of riot police, water cannons positioned at intersections, streets sealed off hours before kickoff. Fans move in coordinated units, faces masked, flares and fireworks hidden in clothing. The choreography is spectacular. Massive tifos, smoke bombs creating walls of color, chants that shake concrete. Then the violence erupts. Projectiles rain down on opposing sections, pitch invasions targeting players. In 2010, a flare struck Partizan's Ivica Iliev mid-match, burning him and forcing abandonment. In 1989, a Red Star fan fell from the stands during rioting and died. The matches go ahead anyway. Even war couldn't stop it. During NATO's 1999 bombing campaign, with Belgrade under attack and air raid sirens screaming across the city, the derby still kicked off. 50,000 fans packed the stadium, while missiles targeted their country. For 90 minutes, Delige and Grabari stood side by side against the external threat. The final whistle blew, and they returned to hating each other. The 1990s conflicts revealed the darkest transformation. In May 1990, Red Star traveled to Dinamo Zagreb. Željko Ražnatović, Arkan, led the Delija into a riot against Croatian ultras that historians mark as the day Yugoslavia began to die. Within a year, Arkan had formed a paramilitary unit. His ultras became soldiers. The organizational skills from coordinating stadium violence translated directly into ethnic cleansing operations in Bosnia and Kosovo. Dozens of ultras from both Belgrade clubs followed, turning football brutality into war crimes. On the pitch, Red Star and Partizan dominate Serbian football. UEFA has imposed multi-year European bans and extracted millions in fines from both clubs. Even behind closed doors, violence erupts in the streets outside. This isn't historical. In 2023, Derby Day brought running battles through Belgrade's centre. New generations inherit the hatred without understanding its origins. Football became the language for nationalism, militarism, and political rage that never found resolution. Level 5. South American Chaos. Boca Juniors versus River Plate, El Superclásico. When an entire nation stops breathing for 90 minutes and the actual game has to be moved to another country, you know it's transcended rivalry. Buenos Aires gives birth to the world's most explosive rivalry. Not the most politically charged, but the most visceral, theatrical, and emotionally overwhelming derby on the planet. Both clubs began in La Boca, the Buenos Aires port neighborhood painted in bright colors by Italian immigrants. In 1938, River Plate moved north to wealthy Núñez. That geographical shift created a class divide that still defines the rivalry. Boca remained la mitad más uno, the half plus one, the working class, the majority. River became Los Millonarios, the millionaires, the elite, the establishment. La Bombonera, Boca's stadium, is an architectural marvel. Steep stands on three sides create a vertical wall of humanity that literally shakes when fans jump in unison. Visiting players report physical nausea from the noise and pressure. River's monumental stadium is larger, grander, more modern. The contrast is perfect. Boca's intimate cauldron versus River's imposing cathedral. These matches don't happen, they detonate. Flares turn daylight into apocalyptic orange. Smoke blankets entire sections. Fans throw ticker tape until the pitch disappears beneath paper snow. The police presence is overwhelming. Riot shields, mounted officers, helicopters, and water cannons stationed at every entrance. November 2018 brought the unthinkable. The Copa Libertadores final, South America's equivalent to the Champions League, scheduled Boca versus River. First leg ends 2-2. The second leg in Buenos Aires descends into chaos before kickoff. Boca's team bus approaches the Monumental. River fans attack it with rocks, bottles, and projectiles. Players cover their faces as windows shatter. Several suffer injuries, including star midfielder Pablo Perez, who takes broken glass to the face. The match is postponed, then postponed again. CONMEBOL, South American football's governing body, makes an unprecedented decision. Move the biggest match in South American club history to Madrid, Spain. Thousands of fans fly across the Atlantic. River wins 3-1, lifting the trophy in enemy territory while Buenos Aires nearly burns. That incident is extreme, but not isolated. In 1968, 71 fans died in a crush at River's Stadium after a Superclásico when exit gates failed to open, trapping thousands trying to leave. Violence outside stadiums has led to numerous deaths over decades. Matches regularly feature brawls, bottle throwing, and injuries. Yet the passion is what defines this rivalry above all else. Diego Maradona chose Boca. River has produced legends like Enzo Francescoli and Javier Saviola. These aren't just clubs, they're religions with millions of devoted followers across South America. Argentina stops for El Superclásico. Businesses close, streets empty. Families gather around televisions. For 90 minutes, nothing else exists. That's the power of a rivalry that transcends sport and becomes cultural identity. Level 6. Continental Collision. Galatasaray versus Fenerbahce, the Intercontinental Derby. When a city spans two continents, twice a season the bridge between them runs red. Istanbul is the only city split between continents. Europe on one side of the Bosphorus, Asia on the other. When Galatasaray faces Fenerbahce, that divide becomes a cultural and violent battlefield. Galatasaray represents European Istanbul, cosmopolitan, elite, secular. Fenerbahce claims Asian Istanbul, Anatolian pride, the Eastern identity. The clubs formed in 1905 and 1907, making this Turkey's oldest rivalry. The atmosphere is terrifying. Turkish fans create Cehennem, hell. Flares ignite simultaneously across entire stands. Drums pound in coordinated fury. Chants reach decibel levels that register on sound meters. Players describe it as playing inside a volcano. In 1996, Galatasaray won the Turkish Cup final at Fenerbahçe's stadium. Manager Graham Souness planted a massive Galatasaray flag in the center circle. Fenerbahçe fans exploded. Objects rained down. Armed police escorted Souness out. He later admitted he feared for his life. 4 years later, Galatasaray's "Welcome to Hell" reputation turned literal. 2 Leeds United fans were stabbed to death in Istanbul before a European match. The murders shocked world football and cemented the Turkish ultras' violent reputation internationally. Betrayal cuts deeper than provocation. In 2000, Hakan Şükür, Galatasaray legend with 249 goals, crossed the Bosphorus and signed for Fenerbahçe. His jerseys burned in the streets. Death threats flooded in. Then 2011 shattered remaining respect. Fenerbahçe was accused of match fixing, their president arrested, banned from Champions League. Galatasaray took their European spot. Fenerbahçe fans screamed conspiracy. The scandal poisoned the rivalry with institutional paranoia. Security requires 3,000 police officers, helicopters, road closures, and citywide alcohol bans. In 2023, street battles required riot police deployments resembling military operations. Geography became identity. Identity became pride. Pride transformed football into a city at war with itself. Level 7. Sectarian Inferno. Celtic versus Rangers, the old firm. When 400 years of religious war, political oppression, and generational hatred meet on a football pitch, you're not playing for points, you're fighting for survival. Glasgow, Scotland. 2 football clubs carry the weight of centuries. Celtic and Rangers don't just compete for trophies, they represent opposing sides of conflicts that predate football itself. Catholic versus Protestant, Irish versus British, independence versus unionism, oppression versus establishment. Celtic, formed in 1887 by Irish Catholic immigrants in Glasgow's East End, created to feed poor children and provide identity for a marginalised community facing discrimination and poverty. Rangers, established 1872, became the Protestant club, the establishment club, the unionist club, waving Union Jacks and singing "God Save the King." But the institutional sectarianism went deeper. For 117 years, Rangers operated an unwritten rule: no Catholic players. The policy was open discrimination. In 1989, manager Graham Souness shattered the tradition by signing Mo Johnston, a Catholic and former Celtic player. Rangers fans rioted. Season tickets burned in the streets. Death threats flooded in. The signing broke a century of policy, but it didn't break the hatred. The sectarian divide between Scotland and Northern Ireland has caused decades of violence, terrorism, and death. The old firm became a proxy war for communities that couldn't reconcile. The songs reveal everything. Rangers fans mock the Irish famine that starved 1 million people. "Why don't you go home?" Celtic supporters respond with IRA anthems, celebrating bombings. Police arrest fans under hate crime laws for these chants. This isn't banter, it's genocidal. In 1995, 16-year-old Celtic fan Mark Scott was murdered by a Rangers supporter after an Old Firm match. Emergency rooms in Glasgow brace for assault victims every derby. Domestic abuse reports spike over 100% on match days. The 1980 Scottish Cup final ended in a pitch invasion that became a battlefield. Hundreds from both sides fought for 30 minutes while police on horseback charged the crowds. Over 200 arrests. The riot led to a permanent alcohol ban at Scottish grounds that remains today. In 1999, the Shame Game brought 3 red cards, mass brawls, and referee Hugh Dallas bleeding after a coin struck his head. The match was less football than sanctioned violence. In 2012, Rangers died. Financial collapse, liquidation. The derby disappeared. For 4 years, Scottish football felt hollow. When Rangers clawed back to the top flight in 2016, the city braced itself. The first match back drew 50,000 fans and 3,000 riot police. The war had returned. Modern efforts to reduce sectarianism have made small progress. Both clubs officially condemn offensive behaviour, but 4 centuries of history don't disappear because of PR campaigns. This is where sport becomes dangerous, where passion becomes poison, where a match can genuinely threaten public safety. The Old Firm isn't just the most intense rivalry in football. It might be the most intense rivalry in any sport, anywhere, ever. Every derby is a reminder that when football merges with religion, politics, and historical oppression, the game stops being beautiful and becomes something darker, something we can't look away from, even when we know we should. From family feuds to sectarian warfare, from local pride to international infamy, these rivalries show how the beautiful game can become about more than just kicking a ball. It amplifies everything: love, loyalty, identity, and hatred. So here's the question. If you had to experience just one of these derbies live, which atmosphere are you brave enough to walk into? Drop your answer below. And if this breakdown opened your eyes to football's darker side, you'll definitely want to subscribe.